What if I told you the only thing standing between you and the life you truly want is what you've been willing to tolerate? Let that sink in. Right now, there are people out there with less talent, fewer resources, and more obstacles than you, yet they are winning, not because they're special, but because they made one powerful decision. They refuse to settle. And here's the truth most people don't want to hear. You already know you're capable of more. You feel it in those quiet moments when you realize you've been playing small, when you know you gave half effort, when you had more to give, when your potential whispers, this isn't your limit. But instead of answering that call, most people ignore it. They choose comfort over growth, excuses over discipline, average over greatness, not because they want to fail, but because settling feels easier in the moment. And that's exactly how dreams die, quietly, slowly, unnoticed. But today, something changes. Today is not just another motivational video. This is a wake-up call, because if you keep accepting less, life will keep giving you less. But the moment you decide, truly decide to demand more from yourself, everything begins to shift. Your mindset changes, your standards rise, your actions become sharper, stronger, unstoppable. So I need you to focus right now. No distractions, no excuses, because what you're about to hear could be the turning point, the moment you stop settling and start becoming who you were meant to be. Self-awareness is the foundation of all achievement, because it is the moment a person truly sees themselves without illusion, without excuses, and without limitation. It begins with an honest recognition of who you are today, but more importantly, who you are capable of becoming. Most people move through life with a blurred vision of their own abilities, shaped by past failures, opinions of others, and temporary circumstances, and because of this distorted view, they unknowingly shrink their own potential. When you develop self-awareness, you begin to separate facts from assumptions. You realize that your current results are not your final identity, but simply a reflection of past actions and decisions. This realization is powerful because it removes the invisible ceiling you may have placed on your life. You start to notice your habits, your patterns of thinking, and the silent beliefs that guide your behavior, whether they empower you or hold you back. Instead of blaming external conditions, you begin to take responsibility, understanding that the true control lies within your own mind. With this awareness, you identify your strengths clearly, not in a boastful way, but with quiet confidence, knowing these strengths are tools that can be sharpened and multiplied through effort. At the same time, you become aware of your weaknesses, not to criticize yourself, but to confront them with courage and transform them into areas of growth. This level of understanding creates clarity, and clarity leads to direction, because you can no longer pretend you don't know what needs to change. You begin to recognize the gap between your current performance and your true potential, and that gap becomes a source of motivation rather than frustration. Self-awareness also brings control over your emotional responses, allowing you to pause, reflect, and choose actions that align with your higher goals instead of reacting impulsively. It sharpens your decision-making as you are no longer guided by fear or doubt, but by a deeper understanding of your purpose and capabilities. As this awareness grows, so does your standard for yourself, because you can no longer accept less when you clearly see that you are built for more. And this inner clarity quietly transforms your mindset, your actions, and the direction of your entire life. Refusal to settle is a deliberate mental decision to reject mediocrity in every form, even when it feels comfortable, familiar, or socially acceptable. It begins the moment you recognize that average results are not a reflection of your true capacity, but rather a consequence of lowered standards that have been repeated over time. Many people do not consciously choose an ordinary life. They drift into it by accepting less effort, less discipline, and less ambition than they are truly capable of giving. When you refuse to settle, you break that pattern by raising your internal standards and deciding that good enough is no longer acceptable. This decision is not based on arrogance, but on a deep respect for your own potential and a commitment to honor it through your actions. It requires courage because settling often comes disguised as comfort, and comfort can feel safe while silently limiting your growth. You begin to question your habits, your routines, and even the environment around you, asking whether they are pushing you forward or holding you back. This mindset shifts your tolerance. Things you once accepted, procrastination, excuses, lack of focus, become unacceptable because they no longer align with the person you are choosing to become. Refusing to settle also means embracing higher levels of responsibility, understanding that achieving more demands more from you in terms of effort, sacrifice, and consistency. It forces you to move beyond temporary satisfaction and focus on long-term fulfillment, even when it requires discomfort and persistence. As this attitude strengthens, you develop a sense of urgency, a quiet determination that pushes you to act when others hesitate and to continue when others stop. You stop negotiating with your goals and start committing to them fully, recognizing that every compromise you make with your potential weakens your progress. This mindset transforms the way you approach challenges, as you no longer see them as obstacles but as necessary steps toward growth. You begin to demand excellence in your work, discipline in your habits, and focus in your daily actions, not because someone else expects it, but because you expect it from yourself. Over time, this refusal to settle reshapes your identity, turning you into someone who naturally strives for more, not out of pressure, but out of a deep inner standard that no longer allows you to remain where you once were. Definite purpose is the driving force that gives direction, meaning, and intensity to every action you take, transforming scattered effort into focused power. Without a clear purpose, energy is easily wasted on distractions, temporary desires, and uncertain paths, leaving a person busy but unfulfilled. When you establish a definite purpose, you decide exactly what you want, why you want it, and what you are willing to give in return, creating a sense of clarity that sharpens your thoughts and strengthens your decisions. This clarity removes hesitation because you are no longer guessing your way through life. You are moving with intention toward a clearly defined objective. It influences how you spend your time, the habits you build, and the opportunities you pursue as everything begins to align with your chosen direction. Instead of reacting to circumstances, you begin to shape them, guided by a vision that acts as a mental blueprint for your future. A definite purpose also strengthens your resilience because when challenges arise, you are less likely to quit or become discouraged. Your goal becomes a source of emotional strength that keeps you moving forward even when results are not immediate. It turns obstacles into temporary delays rather than permanent defeats, as your focus remains fixed on the outcome you have committed to achieving. This level of purpose creates internal discipline, reducing the need for external motivation, because your actions are no longer driven by mood or convenience, but by commitment. You begin to measure your progress not by comfort, but by alignment with your purpose, making decisions based on long-term results rather than short-term ease. It also sharpens your ability to say no, allowing you to eliminate distractions and influences that do not support your vision, which increases your efficiency and strengthens your focus. As your purpose becomes more defined, your confidence naturally grows because you are no longer uncertain about your direction or your potential. You develop a sense of control over your life, knowing that each step you take is part of a larger plan you have consciously chosen. This clarity of purpose transforms ordinary effort into meaningful progress, giving you a sense of direction that continuously pulls you forward toward higher levels of achievement and personal growth. Faith in ability is the inner conviction that you possess the power to achieve more than your current circumstances suggest, even when there is no immediate evidence to support it. It is not blind optimism or wishful thinking, but a deep-rooted belief that your skills, intelligence, and potential can be developed and expanded through effort and persistence. Many people limit themselves not because they lack capability, but because they lack belief, allowing doubt to weaken their actions before they even begin. When you develop faith in your ability, you begin to trust yourself in a way that influences every decision you make, replacing hesitation with determination and uncertainty with quiet confidence. This belief becomes the foundation upon which all achievement is built because it shapes how you respond to challenges, failures, and opportunities. Instead of seeing obstacles as proof that you cannot succeed, you interpret them as part of the process, temporary conditions that can be overcome with continued effort and learning. This shift in perspective is powerful because it changes your emotional response to difficulty, allowing you to remain steady and focused even when progress feels slow. Faith in your ability also strengthens your willingness to take action, as you are no longer paralyzed by the fear of failure or judgment, understanding that every attempt moves you closer to improvement. It encourages you to step beyond your comfort zone, knowing that growth only occurs when you challenge your current limits. Over time, this belief begins to reinforce itself, as each small success builds more confidence, and each setback becomes a lesson rather than a defeat. You start to rely less on external validation and more on your internal sense of capability, making your confidence more stable and independent of circumstances. This internal strength allows you to maintain focus on your goals without being easily discouraged by criticism or temporary setbacks. As your faith in your ability deepens, your standards naturally rise because you no longer see yourself as someone who settles for less, but as someone capable of achieving more through consistent effort and disciplined action. This belief transforms your mindset into one of possibility and progress, pushing you to act with purpose and persistence in the direction of your goals. Persistent action is the disciplined commitment to continue moving forward with consistent effort, regardless of obstacles, delays, or temporary failures. It is the bridge between intention and achievement, because no matter how clear your goals or how strong your belief, nothing materializes without repeated and focused action. Many people begin with enthusiasm, but they stop when progress becomes slow or when results do not appear as quickly as expected, allowing discouragement to interrupt their momentum. Persistent action eliminates this weakness by replacing short bursts of effort with sustained consistency, where each step, no matter how small, contributes to long-term progress. It requires a shift in mindset from seeking immediate rewards to valuing steady improvement, understanding that success is often the result of accumulated effort over time rather than sudden breakthroughs. When you commit to persistent action, you develop the ability to work through discomfort, fatigue, and doubt without allowing them to dictate your behavior. You begin to see challenges not as reasons to stop, but as signals to adjust your approach while continuing forward. This creates resilience, as you no longer depend on perfect conditions to take action, but instead learn to act despite uncertainty or difficulty. Persistent action also strengthens discipline, as it demands that you show up consistently, even when motivation is low or distractions are present. Over time, this consistency builds habits that operate almost automatically, reducing the mental effort required to stay on track. Each completed action reinforces your sense of progress, which in turn fuels further effort, creating a cycle of growth and momentum. It also sharpens your focus, as repeated engagement with your goals deepens your understanding and improves your performance. Instead of being overwhelmed by the size of your ambitions, you break them down into manageable steps and commit to executing them daily. This approach transforms large, distant goals into achievable outcomes through steady accumulation of effort. As persistent action becomes part of your identity, you begin to trust yourself more, knowing that you will continue regardless of circumstances. This reliability builds confidence and strengthens your ability to overcome setbacks, as quitting is no longer an option you consider, and progress becomes a natural result of your continuous and determined effort. Mental discipline is the ability to control, direct, and refine your thoughts in a way that consistently supports your goals rather than sabotages them. It begins with the understanding that every action you take is first created in the mind, shaped by the ideas, beliefs, and internal dialogue you allow to exist there. Without discipline at the mental level, even the strongest intentions can be weakened by doubt, distraction, or negative thinking patterns that quietly influence behavior. When you develop mental discipline, you become more aware of these patterns and begin to take control of them, choosing thoughts that align with growth, confidence, and purpose instead of fear or limitation. This requires constant attention, as the mind naturally drifts toward comfort, worry, or past experiences if left unmanaged. You learn to interrupt unproductive thoughts before they gain strength, replacing them with more constructive and focused thinking that moves you closer to your objectives. This control extends beyond thoughts into emotional responses, allowing you to remain steady and composed in situations that would normally trigger frustration, anxiety, or hesitation. Instead of reacting impulsively, you create a pause between stimulus and response, giving yourself the ability to choose actions that reflect your higher standards. Mental discipline also strengthens concentration, enabling you to direct your attention toward meaningful tasks without being easily distracted by external noise or internal impulses. This increased focus improves the quality of your work and accelerates your progress, as you are able to invest your energy more efficiently. Over time, disciplined thinking shapes your identity, reinforcing a mindset that prioritizes consistency, clarity, and intentional action. You begin to trust your own mind as a reliable guide rather than a source of conflict, as it becomes trained to support your ambitions instead of resisting them. This internal order creates a sense of control over your life, as your decisions are no longer influenced by temporary emotions or scattered thinking, but by a clear and steady mental framework. As mental discipline deepens, it strengthens every other area of your development, ensuring that your actions, habits, and responses remain aligned with the standards you have chosen to live by. In the end, the message is clear and undeniable. You are capable of far more than you have allowed yourself to achieve. Every limitation you have accepted, every moment you chose comfort over growth, and every time you settled for less has shaped your current reality. But it does not have to define your future. The power to change lies within your awareness, your decisions, and your daily actions. When you truly understand your potential, refuse to settle, define your purpose, believe in your ability, take persistent action, and discipline your mind, you begin to operate on a completely different level. These are not just ideas. They are principles that, when applied consistently, transform ordinary lives into extraordinary ones. The difference between those who remain where they are and those who rise is not luck or talent, but the standards they choose to live by and the courage they have to demand more from themselves. Now the choice is yours. Continue as you are, or step forward with a renewed commitment to become the person you know you are capable of being, wishing you strength, clarity, and unstoppable determination on your journey ahead. Good luck in everything you pursue, and thank you for taking the time to invest in your growth and your future.